Good evening, gamers, and welcome to another episode of Games with Dave. Tonight, I have the pleasure of being joined by the one and only Luau Lou.
Hey guys.
Lou is the proud owner or man behind Dandelion Games, and he has been in the RPG industry for over 30 years, right?
Playing RPGs.
Yeah,
for 30
playing
years.
RPG 30s, publishing for 14.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at.
First publication, I had a company before this one that was called Wholesome Entertainment, and I published something in like 2005. That would have been the earliest I actually made any money in the industry, but not that it was much. But yeah,
that must still be cool, like to actually get like, well, I mean, I got my first one. It was like $1.36 from Drive Through RPG, but it was like, hey, you know, I made money on a published adventure. So
yeah, my very first money was I hadn't actually gotten a website yet. I just published some games through, I think it was Lightning Source. It was carrying around with me, stack of them in a suitcase, running games at Gen Con. And I ran a game for a group, and a guy came up to me afterwards. He's like, I love that game. Are you selling it? I'm like, well, I got some in a suitcase. I'm not really supposed to sell them. He said, I'll buy one. So that was the first $10 I ever made. Probably the happiest moment of my life at that point, you know, as far as game design goes.
Oh, dude, you must have been on cloud nine. I know.
Oh, yeah, to have someone like ask, you know, I wasn't even like trying to, and if you like the game, you know, none of that, just like, you know, I had them there just in case. Didn't sell a single other one, but still, that day that made it, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that would just be the coolest thing. Like, I would just you would not be able to wipe the grin off my face. So, so you've got a pretty cool Kickstarter going right now that you just started for Zinequest. Why don't you tell the fine folks out there in YouTube land about it, and
Sure.
We'll spend the night talking about that and the Dare Luck Club.
All right. Well, and there's plenty of other games we can talk about.
There's a ton. That's why I had to turn off the blur so that we could I could show games.
So the Zinequest comes up every February, and I didn't used to do it, but a friend of mine, actually one of the artists that works with me for the Dare Luck Club, Christopher Tupa. Last year, he's like, man, do you care if I put something out for the Dare Luck Club? I want to do like an art book zine sort of thing. And if you'll like kind of help me make it into a book and put it out there, I'll do all the art and the writing for it and stuff. So that was last year's was Mall Madness at the Mall, which he did. This is just, I mean, you got one, all right. So the only thing I had to do with this was kind of a little bit of editing and kind of telling him, well, this is what I think I would do if I were you. But everything else is him in here. And it went really well. And it was kind of exciting for me. I'd never been part of Zinequest. And it's kind of neat to just have like a little book, you know, not, you know, most of the stuff I write, it's like, you know, 100 pages here and there and whatever. But so that got me excited. And so this year I'm like, you know, I'm going to do my own Zinequest. And so I, you know, kind of, it was almost a reverse situation. I like call him up and I'm like, hey, you know, I want to do this zine for Dare Luck Club. Will you help me do the zine? And he had this idea earlier. We had been talking on this podcast. I do This Old Dungeon. We'd been talking about back in the day. There was a deal in Dragon Magazine where they published some images, and then you as a as a subscriber or whatever could write up an adventure based on those images, and then they picked the best one and actually published it. And he had listened to that podcast and wanted to do that as an artist. He said, you know, I'd love to just draw you some images, and you can have, you know, your listeners for the podcast, you know, have a contest for them to make an adventure. Well, that got me thinking just in general about it'd be kind of neat as a writer to start with the artist and just hire an artist and say, hey, draw me something along these lines, like within this space, but whatever you want. And then I'm going to try to incorporate that into an adventure. And so that's what this one is that I'm doing now. It's called Trick or Treat, and it's basically a Halloween night adventure where in the Dare Luck Club you play these misfit little brats out, you know, kind of Goonies style, going on these adventures, and it's just like it's designed to be one of these things where the night just keeps getting more and more complicated, and you know you end up with the cops looking after you, you end up with these bad guys looking after you, and you end up, you know, missing your brother and trying to figure out where he went off to. And so anyhow, the artists, I hired 6 different artists, and I said, give me 3 doors. Okay, I want an image of a door being opened on Halloween night, and I want you to give me an image of someone that's interesting but normal. Give me something that's at first seems normal, but then as you look at it, there's something, really curious about it. And then give me something wild. And so all the artists, I've got Teresa Guido, I've got Christopher Tupa, Santiago Bora, who's one of the artists that does a lot of the work with me, as well as Christopher. So if you've seen any of my stuff, you've probably seen some of his work.
Yep.
Scott Harshbarger, who runs Harsh Realities Games. He's also an artist. He jumped in and did some for me. Man, I'm missing some folks. Pablo Morris, and I'm forgetting somebody. Who am I forgetting? Oh man, I'm gonna feel really bad after this. But anyhow, I've almost got all the doors back. There's still a few of them. I told them they could have till the end of the month here. So I'm kind of incorporating them in as they come in. But and that's I know I'm going like all over the place here, but that's the main thing. Is it's just like art inspiring writing this time around, and the adventure kind of it starts with like 4 main plot lines, and then the plot lines kind of have like little subplots that come up, and then as you go door to door on this neighborhood map, you've got some that are random occupants, and then you got some that are like standard encounters that involve some of these doors, and they all kind of connect back and forth to each other. So in a nutshell, that is Trick or Treat, which is my my Zinequest zine.
That sounds super cool. I like how you really are using the art as like adventure prompts.
Yeah.
And,
and it's been interesting because, in a way, it's kind of a challenge to myself in that, like, anything they make, I've got to figure out a way to make it make sense within these plot lines, and to be interesting and fun, and not that, I mean, like everything they've turned in has been amazing, but it's like, you'll have one artist that'll send you an image of, like, I don't know, I've got this one that's this weird guy with like bunny ears on and sunglasses, and he kind of looks like he's kind of like a Flavor Flav kind of looking guy. So I got that, and then I've got like one where it's this like weird like fin hand monster that's reaching out of the darkness through the door. So trying to get those to pair together and be kind of like, well, if they went here, this could happen with this storyline, and it's been a cool challenge.
Yeah, well, it sounds challenging, and I can't wait to play it. By the sounds of it, it just sounds. I can't wait to see it more than anything, because then to match up knowing what I know now and to be like, oh yeah, now I see what he did with that picture.
Yeah, and that's the thing I like about it, is it's going to be kind of like an adventure book and an art book, because like every other page is one of these doors, and it's really been cool to just kind of see these guys and gals and see the showcase of what they've turned in. Artists are just great. I mean, that's I don't know if I'm any good at writing, but I know I'm great at picking artists, because I've worked with some just amazing talent, and that's the best part of doing any sort of RPG work is seeing that email that's like, oh, new art from so and so. It's just fun.
Yeah, I've got a couple things I've been working on that I still haven't finished, that I've worked with the artists, and like you said, it's just the coolest thing to like give an idea, like, this is what I'm looking for, and then open up your email and see your idea in front of you. Mm-hmm. It's just like the neatest thing. It's like, whoa, I never would have drawn it that good, or I never would have made it look like that. And yeah, it's just so cool.
Yeah. And then it kind of like, it's like kind of cyclical, right? Because then you look at the art, and then it maybe like triggers something new. That you're like, well, I was thinking this, they went that way. That's a whole nother way.
Yeah.
It takes you down another lane of writing. It's just cool.
Yep, it is. So what, I guess you would say, like, I can tell you're really into games like me, and I can see all the games in the background. What got you into games as a little guy?
All right. So, we're probably close in age, but so when I was a kid, there was the whole Satanic Panic, right?
Oh yeah.
And so I come from a fairly religious family, and my parents, I mean, they weren't like they weren't drinking the Kool-Aid. They weren't like, oh, D&D's, satanic or whatever, but they just weren't sure. They didn't really know what to believe. And back then you had, preachers on TV talking about, oh, it's got this and that in it, and making up half truths and lies. So as a kid, I wasn't allowed to play role-playing games. But my dad, he got us into model railroading, which is one of the reasons Dandelion Games is a train. So we'd go to the model railroad store, and they would have, D&D, and they'd have the little pewter figures on the blister cards and stuff. And I was always like, oh, Dad, this looks so cool. Can I get into this? And for a long time, it was no. It's like, I don't know about that. Just, so I would like imagine what D&D was, and I tried to make little games and stuff that were what I thought role-playing games were, which had like maps, and like you roll die, and if you roll 5, you beat the dragon, real stupid, simple stuff like that. But eventually, my buddy, the artist, Christopher Tupis, all coming into a circle. He was actually a friend of mine growing up before he moved away to Texas, and his family went to was the same religion as ours, and his parents decided to let him start playing D&D, and then my parents were talking to his, and they're like, well, I guess it's not what the TV says it is. So then I was allowed to play, and then man, it was just, I was hooked. I started playing, I think I was like 10. And I just, ever since, there's a brief moment in high school that I was maybe more of a closet player, but other than that, it's always been my favorite hobby.
That's awesome. So what were aside from like D&D, what were some of your favorite games growing up? Well, I guess you could say board games, card games, you name it.
So, man, I don't know if it's close enough to that. It's under a pile. So there's a game back there that it's actually my brother's game. Shh, don't tell him I have it. But it's a game called Stop Thief, and they remade it recently.
That is my favorite game from my childhood with the phone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that game. In fact, so that's the original version up there. It's my brother's copy, but I rigged it up so the phone runs on a DC converter now. But
nice.
So I like that game. My cousin had this game, and I cannot think of what the name of it is, but you were like walking around a graveyard, and every now and then you had to press a button, and I can't remember exactly how it worked, but like randomly somehow like a vampire would pop up from this like little vinyl coffin that was part of the board, and I really like that. And I made a lot of games growing up, again, just because of the fact I wasn't allowed to play them initially. So I made a bunch of like pseudo role-playing space games and D&D type games. My brother, I really got to credit him to get me into fantasy and stuff. He was big into the Borderbrund text games on the Commodore 64. So these would be like Zork and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and stuff like that. So those were really cool as a kid, kind of hanging out with him, trying to solve some of those puzzles. Oh man, I don't know. Let's see, what else would be. We had this game. What was that called? Dogfight, I want to say, or Carrier Strike. That's what it was. And it was a naval battle game. It had these aircraft carriers with little fighter planes on them, and it was basically like a tactical war game, all on a kind of like a double-sided or double-sized board game kind of board. But I don't know, man. I've never met a game I didn't love, almost, with very few exceptions.
I just have a hard time with some of the newer ones with so many components and cards and everything to it. But I cannot believe you said Stop Thief, because was my favorite game as a kid. Because awesome. If you had missed the robber, you'd hear the of them running away. That's so funny that you brought that up, because that and Dark Tower were two of my favorites as a kid. I
never had Dark Tower, and I sorely regret not backing the Restoration Games revival of it, because I've seen it. Other friends had it and stuff, but never owned it. Now I did have a little set of what was that called? Catapults and castles and catapults with the
Yes.
little. You remember those little discs they'd shoot out and
Yep.
stuff?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And Hungry Hippo, oddly enough, is
Yep.
still one of my favorites to this day. And I don't know if it's because it's so loud, or you have to go so fast to win it, or what it is. So, so one thing that popped into my head today, I got to thinking. They always say, "What came first, the chicken or the egg?" Which came first in your mind? You kind of already touched on it, saying Dandelion was your second company. But which came first, Dandelion or the idea for Dare Luck?
So I think, so like I said, I had another company, and it's amazing how much a few years can make a difference. Because in 2005, print on demand was just becoming a thing where you could go and have a short run of books printed on a like a high class laser printer or whatever, versus the offset printing that most books are printed on. And so it was really hard to be able to publish a book and be able to do that in a at a price point that people would pay for a small published book. So I had a couple books back then. My big product line was called Century's Edge. It was like a Victorian era literature kind of based world. So you were playing, people exploring the Dark Continent and fighting, Dracula and stuff like that. Very League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
Nice, yeah.
kind of mashup sort of thing. And it was I got desires to go back and try to revive that at some point, but at any rate, it just financially, the best years I broke even, in the worst years I lost a couple $100. So that died off. But I still had ideas for games. I mean, I've always been making games all my life, and so about 2015, I was sitting at an airport and I had this idea for a Goonies style game, and I don't know what it was, but it just I just started typing and typing, and then I was like, well, man, I kind of want to try to publish this again. Things have changed. There's Drive Through RPG makes it so you can have a platform to sell your games where people know where you're at, and Kickstarter makes it so you can fund some of the art for some of these games. So yeah, I guess Their Luck came first, and then I was like, well, what do I want to call my new company? And a couple of things is interesting. My father actually he was a goat herder, and his goat herd was called Dandelion Goats, meaning like a genetic line, because you'd breed purebred Saanen goats for milk production and stuff. It's real fascinating stuff to everyone, I'm sure. But,
I was actually just going to say that sounds really fascinating. So we can talk goats.
Yeah, let's talk goat. No. So his herd name was Dandelion Goats, and that same year he had passed away quite a while ago from cancer when I was a very young man, and my mother passed away in 2015 in an accident, and so I was kind of like, well, I could name it that to honor him, and then there's the whole connection with trains, because that's kind of what first brought D&D kind of within my peripheral. So it just seemed to mesh. So yeah, I guess Dare Luck Club came first, and then thinking of what I was going to call my company, Dandelion, came second.
Cool. So, man, I've got to say, I know I said before we actually went on air, that I didn't get to read that much of the Dare Luck Club. But what I did see, I absolutely love. Like, the aesthetic of it being like a notebook is just the coolest freaking thing.
Yeah. So I don't know, you can kind of see the little wire insides there. Yeah. But I tell you, it was kind of like what do they call that? An invention of necessity. So the original book, I was on a shoestring budget, so I hired artists for it. There's professional good art in that book, but then there's some other art that I did myself. And I'm not the worst artist you'll ever see, but like, oh, I don't know. Here's an example of my art, just to there's the goofy kid with the laser gun. Oh, here, this guy, this kid with the broken foot. So That's me.
You
But then
can
you have people
you can
like
draw.
Santiago. Like then you got like this is that's Santiago Bora. That's I mean he's got just fantastic art, and Christopher Tupo with his kids in the go kart there.
Nice.
But so it was kind of like one of these things where it's like, this is how much money I have, this is how many pages it's going to be, this is how much art I need. So I was like, well, I need it to kind of be okay to be a little scribbly, you know, a little bit loose with the art. And yeah, this is kind of, I guess, a cool thing. So my local game store just for some reason started selling DCC and MCC, and it's actually the only time they've ever done that. They haven't restocked since then. But I picked up MCC, and it's not that it's. I mean, those are beautiful books. I love those books. Please don't anybody think I'm putting those books down. But the aesthetic of them compared to fifth edition, like that's a left turn, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's they've got the old style art. They've got it kind of paginated so that it's not really like so grandiose, you know, like fifth edition does, where everything's like done to the hilt.
Yeah, you turn the page and you hear the trumpets play, you know, and it's like,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
and it's like just because like you said, grandiose. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, it's. Yep.
So yeah, so I mean that was the thing, is it kind of let me, it was like somebody out there in the universe saying, you know what, it's okay to just do your own thing, you know. And so I was like, well, you know, I could make it have like a notebook kind of look to it, so that, you know, here and there the pictures can look like maybe the kids had drawn them on there. And it, you know, it's not like 100% that direction. Sometimes I think I should have gone that, where it was like, you know, every page looks like it was hand drawn and
Yeah.
in there. But it's enough that it gives you that flavor, but yet still has some like somewhat professional, you know, layout to it, and some professional art in it. So, but thank you.
Yeah, I think it's
I like the
amazing.
aesthetic. I think it works.
Like the aesthetic of it and just like that vibe of it being a notebook, you know, it almost pulled me back to like popping open my Trapper Keeper, you know,
Yeah.
of like, and it's like, and like flipping my notebook pages, and I'm like, this is just the coolest thing. So
Yeah, I even tried to, like, every now and then I tried to put something that looked like a sticker in it, like I don't know if you saw the Mr. Yuck sticker.
yeah, yep, I did see that.
I was like, yeah, that would be something I would have put in there, you know, in a notebook when I was in school.
Well, now you really kind of popped the cork on something. You brought up MCC and DCC, and I know we both have
Oh yeah.
a big old passion for both of those games. And for me, like, and I think it is for you too, it's that art. It's that, like, it takes me back to digging out my brother's hidden D&D books, because my mom didn't want him in the house. You know, she was just like, nope, none of that. Like I loved Judas Priest as a kid ever since the first time I heard him. I was never allowed to own one of their records. I think I was 16 the first time she was like, whatever, just get what you want.
Give up the fight.
Yep. But it's like, and the community, I mean, as you know, is just second to none.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, they really, I don't know. There's so much about that game that recaptures that moment, right?
Yeah.
Like the early moments of first experiencing role playing game, and a lot of it's the aesthetic, but it's also like it's like I don't know. There's just nuances about it, like the way the spells work give you that feeling that when you were first reading the spells in AD&D, and you're like, oh, you know, Tensor's floating disc does this, you know, and that, and they kind of brought that freshness to how spells do things. And the monsters, the way the monsters work in it, and the monster versus a monster kind of aesthetic.
yeah. Yep. And I feel like Joseph and everybody did such a good job of reintroducing the sense of wonder because I don't feel like it's, and I don't want to turn this into a bash on 5e or by any means, but it has become such a different thing from when Gary Gygax made it to what it is now, or when him and Dave Arneson made it to what it is now. And, you know, it's just, but I feel like opening up that DCC book and seeing that art and the way the text is done, the typography, is just like getting sucked back in time.
Yes.
You know, and I love it.
Yes.
I love it. And the dice chain, and there's
that too, right? That's
yeah.
So that's like another thing is like you thought you knew all your crazy dice, and then it's like, oh no, you know,
No.
and it's like that feeling again of those gemstone dice when you were a kid, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's just so amazing. Yeah. So, and speaking of DCC and MCC, you've got something else here I'd love to talk about that I tried to show you. And I already forgot, because I'm a wicked space shot, of what the product line itself is called.
So it's a cheesy name. Sometimes I wish I didn't name them anything at all, but I'm calling those cover stories, because they're kind of designed kind of like the cover of those old modules, where it's like a little trifold thing.
I don't think it's a cheesy name at all. So, and maybe I'm cheesy. My fiance says I am. So,
but I just thought, well, it kind of works two ways, because they're kind of like a cover, and they're kind of designed to just be like a little throwaway adventure. So it's like, oh, we need something to cover tonight because, you know, this person's gone and we're not going to be able to play a regular game or whatever. So yeah, they're just like a little 4-hour session. The forest one I've found is a lot longer than 4 hours. It's more like 6 to 8, because people really enjoy the whole aesthetic of exploring that and figuring out where they want to build the road and all that. But yeah, so I did those 3, and I've got 3 that I'm kind of they're very early stages that I'm working on for this coming summer here.
Nice. I can't wait. I'll be there day 1.
Oh, thanks, man.
I can't wait. So, and you've got another project that's about to start shipping, I believe. Yeah, I'm very excited about.
So this is the printer's proof right here, all shrunk wrapped up here. This is the volume 2 to the Unnatural Selections. That's actually, I think, if everything goes like it's supposed to, next week it'll start hitting mail.
Sweet.
So yeah, that's I wish I didn't have it shrunk wrap. I should probably tear it here. Live on air. We're gonna do an opening.
Nice.
So the original, I mean, I don't know, probably most people listening to your podcast already know about the original. Here's my son's copy. So the original is the deluxe version's a binder, and it's monsters for MCC, each one on a separate page. And so the original one I think had it was 200 pages, so 100 monsters in it, roughly, with some couple extra ones thrown in, like sub categories and things. So then volume 2 is another 80 pages, so another 40 monsters, and it comes with a couple new divider sheets to put, you know, to help organize your stuff. And it comes with, if I don't drop them all over the place, should be 2 of them in there. Where'd the other one go? Anyhow,
I'm excited because I missed one, and
so you're getting both.
I'm getting both. So
here it is.
Oh, and Jonathan Sullivan's in the chat. He said he's looking forward to getting his copy of Volume 2.
Thanks, Jonathan. Hey,
thanks for joining us.
He's got he's probably getting ready to ship his fairy tale one too. Did you see that one when it came up? The oh, Jonathan, I can't believe I've got it. Or no, I don't have it, but I have it ordered. Not Strange Tales. Tell us in chat what's. I'm not on the. I need to get on the chat here.
There's always a slight like delay between the two, too.
So he's got a fairy tale one. I cannot believe I can't remember. I play tested it. It's got the creator art of the giant there next to the table, and I know it has tails in it, but it's not grim tails. It's not weird tails. It is. Oh man,
fairly odd tale. He says a fairly odd tale.
Yes. But yeah, he's probably got that one coming up real soon. I think he was looking at some proofs not too long ago. But yeah, so you get some more cling stickers. So I don't know if people knew this or not, but the cover of this comes out and it comes just bare. And the original one came with 2 sheets of cling stickers to make like your own design with some of the monsters from the book in it and
That's
stuff.
so cool. That takes
And
me
so
back to
the
those.
volume 2 has a new back cover insert of like this like little science lab here, and then there's different things you can put in the lab
Nice.
to make a back cover for the thing. So but yeah, it's I really enjoy doing these. They're not real profitable. I will say that because you're paying for art on every single page, and so that eats up your budget pretty quick. But it's fun.
Yeah.
And you think like you think like, oh man, I could come up with monsters all day. And it's funny, once you sit down and you start doing that, you're probably good. I would think most people, myself anyhow, you're good for about like 30. And then after 30, you're like, is that like the other one I did? Is that... but eventually it comes to you. Eventually you come up with some stuff that's like, oh yeah, that's unique, that's cool. But it's a fun challenge. I challenge everyone to do it. To sit down and start making a list of monsters you would create if you were making a monster book. But yeah, so these are just new pages. That it starts off with some new random encounter lists since you've got new monsters.
Nice.
You had to update the one, but then you get into the monsters here. So we got the Demiborg. So for those AD&D players that did Tomb of Horror, it's kind of like the idea of a demi-lich, but this is a cyborg that's gotten to the end of its life, and now it's just this little piece of hardware with a little bit of biomass still active in it, and how it would go through its life. Demented toys, or depraved toys, I mean. Dinosaurs, there's a couple pages of dinosaurs. There's the Goonicorn.
Nice.
But so just a collection to add to those.
So you have basically made the Monstrous Compendium for MCC.
That was my goal. I love the Monsters Compendium. As far as like when it came out, it was really fun getting the new sleeves for them and stuff. But like as a product, I didn't feel it worked well because, well, one, they started printing like monsters back to back.
Yeah.
But then you'd have ones that were supposed to go in between them. It's like, it screwed up the alphabetical order. So on these, it's always just like one monster, one page. So you can always rearrange things. And then also just like, part of the reason that was a problem is because they were doing full, 8.5 by 11. So it's like you couldn't really fill up a double-sided 8.5 and 11 page for some of the more simpler monsters, right? So by shrinking it down to more of a digest size, you can do that. You can have like one page, one monster, get everything you need to tell about it on there. Some of them have like little sample adventures for that monster on the back of them, little maps and things. But that way it's more portable, like at the table too. You're not taking up a
exactly. It's not like having a secondary GM screen sitting in front of you just to keep track of your displacer beast, So just drew a blank there. Uh-oh.
Dun, dun, dun. So what let's talk other people's hotness.
There's all kinds of it.
Yeah. I saw that Father Goose's Pulp Fantasy for DCC, that just ended well.
Yep, and
did really well with that.
The new version of what I see sitting over your right shoulder there on the top is finishing up here in the next couple of days.
Oh my goodness, Demon Disco. I'm missing something.
Drug Disco? Is it Demon Drug? Is it Demon Drug Disco?
Yeah. So that was I actually got a test play that at Gen Con. That was when Joey tells the story about like going out to eat and coming up with an adventure. I was one of the guys that was lucky enough to be on the other end of that he like walked into the room. He's like, I got an adventure. We're doing this.
Nice.
It was fun. It was awesome. There was this whole, I don't know if, man, he might not want me to tell this, but there was this whole funny thing that went on where the main bad guy in it was originally he was like called like the Dark Shogun, and then Diogo pointed out, he's like, well, man, that's pretty on PC, man. You can't do dark, you know. So there was like, well, this Shadow Shogun or whatever. And that was like a running joke when we were playing there on the test play. It'd be interesting to see what he did with that in the final version.
Oh, I can't wait for that one. And you're a big WHPA guy as well, right?
Yeah. Somewhere here, but yeah, I've got, yeah, there it is. Almost got the complete collection. I got to pick up Tim's addition to that, and then I think Jared Wan did
the signal,
test
signal. Yes,
yeah,
I've got
I haven't got that one yet either. I got to get those too. But
that's a great zine, and I love that. This is another property that I love seeing people start to be like, you know, hey, do you mind if I play in your sandbox? Yeah. And it's like, you know, kind of how you were saying with Dare Luck Club and the art book and everything. It's like getting people to play in your universe has got to be the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, you know, I'm never going to retire off of writing games. I mean, this is just something fun to do. And so if somebody wants to do like my this Unnatural Selections monster book, I've put out many times. If anybody wants the format for that and wants to make stuff so that it goes with that, I mean, do it. You know, Dare Luck Club, you want to write Dare Luck Club, let me know. You can do it. I don't care. It's,
nice.
This is for people to enjoy and enrich lives, and to you know, make the hobby as fun for everyone as they've made it for me. So,
you know, that's really what it's all about, is enriching people's lives. Like, you know, I can say at certain points in my life, gaming literally saved me. And to be able, if I can ever create something that literally like stops someone from doing something very stupid, and it's a result of my game, I have completed my life goal. You know, it's like, you can't ask for anything more. You know, it's like, because like you said, it's like none of us, you might get the lucky one or two that strike like Jed Clampett and hit the oil in his swamp. But it's not about making that $1.4 billion profit for our shareholders. You know, it's about getting in the dirt and having fun, you know, and I love it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. You know, it's interesting to see like what gets hot and what doesn't. And, you know, I've learned long ago that, you know, I'm a terrible predictor of what would be a hot property to do for a role-playing game or whatever. But it wouldn't matter anyhow. I mean, like if I was making stuff that was just like, this is my target audience, this is, you know, that would be so boring. But to be able to like wake up in the morning and be like, you know what, I think I would have fun writing, and then going for that. I mean, and then finding out that somebody else, you know, it's like the stop thief thing. Like I'm so over myself just knowing that there's somebody else in the universe who knows what that game is, let alone loves it, you know. So just having that connection with people, it's just awesome.
Yeah, like, and I'm the same with you. Like with Stop Thief, it's like I brought that up to so many people. They'll be like, "Dude, what's your favorite game?" I'm like, "Stop Thief," and it's like there's no hesitation ever. And it's like they'll be like, "I've never heard of that game." And I'm like, "Oh, I had this little phone, and you had all these stores. The guy had robbed it. You're chasing him around and explaining to them." They're like, "Well, it sounds fun," and I'm like, "No, it's awesome." Yeah. Now I'm trying to remember. You said you live.
I live in Indiana.
Indiana, that's right.
It's the wine shirt, right?
So I'm trying to think of like. So you're right there for Gen Con.
Yeah.
And geez, I've got to think, because I'd love to make it out there for Gen Con. You want to make it over here. We've got to do like an exchange program or something.
For sure, man.
And
Yeah, we were talking before the program. I mean, Total Con is that's one of my like bucket list cons that I want to get to. It's one thing, it always happens. I'm a school teacher, so it always happens kind of like right at the beginning of a new semester, and it's kind of a messy time to try to get away. But then also being on the East Coast, it's like I got some family out there, but not really where that's at. So, but yeah, we'll have to work something out.
We'll figure it out. We'll get the logistics all worked out sometime here. So, and Total Con, I cannot wait. Like, because it's like, there's so many people that I've talked to via interview that I'm actually going to get to meet, and I cannot wait. It's going to be so freaking rad.
Yeah, I mean, like everybody that I love being around is going to it, as far as I know. Like you and Levi and Hambone and Brian. Why am I blanking? Shutter, right? I got that right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hit me on
you had it right.
For some reason, like Shutter, that doesn't sound right.
You know what? It's funny that you say that, because I'm so used to calling him either Brian or Neon Lord. One or the other. I never use his last name, so I can see the.
Yeah. Well, these I think Ian McCarty and all them, the Goulet guys, I think they're going. Tom Wilson. I made a stack of all my favorite writers here. Tom Wilson, do you know him? Have you ran into him before?
I have not, but he is a name that has popped up several times. Of like, Dave, you got to connect with him and talk with him.
He is like, I mean, one, he's just an amazing guy. He's super personable, really nice, does all sorts of charity stuff. He's a firefighter. But two, like, he is a genius when it comes to games. Like, he's just, if you look, I mean, he's just prolific. He's kicking out Kickstarters, every few months, and they're not trash. They're like really well done, well played. Like his stuff, he test plays everything. I've been in a couple of games where he's test played some of his stuff, and it's like, you don't see that very often. You don't see somebody that's doing their own stuff and is able to do so much, and it's real affordable. Like this is, he had a magazine. I think he still does it. It's kind of used to be monthly. Now I think it's every couple months, but it's called Back to Basics, and it's like a BX kind of style magazine. And this was the collection of it, the omnibus of it. But like this hardbound book with 10 issues of his magazine, he did a Kickstarter. It was $20.
Wow.
It's like he's giving it away. And it's like that with most of the stuff he prints. It's just ridiculously cheap and really, really good. But you should have him on. He's phenomenal. He's really smart about like how to put a product together so that it's not only a good product, but it's successful and can be at a price point where a lot of people can get in it. I just really wish I had his brains for making products like he does.
I wish I had the brains, period, for making products.
Stop.
Oh, well, it's like, we talked a little bit about this before we went live. Like, I just cannot seem to get anything out of here, either to the keyboard or paper. I get like notes, but then like going from notes to actual, like I've got a project I want to do for X-Crawl Classics, like before, so that it's ready when it comes out. And I've got pages upon pages of notes, tables jotted down and everything, and I'm just like, what do I do? So
it's one of those things, because I mean, it's kind of the process I go through too, is that like I've got a couple of these little notebooks, and that's where everything starts usually, is just like scribbles and that. But it's it's like an artist, I guess, in a way, in a sense that you're putting stuff on the page, and then you gotta it's like a sketch. You gotta, okay, I'm gonna change that, I'm gonna reorganize that, and then you show it to somebody and they're like, well, but man, I guarantee you, man, having looked at your stuff and talking with you and hearing you talk with other folks, I think if you just be like, oh, I'm just going to get it typed up and see what happens, the ball will start rolling,
And that may be what it like takes, is just like strapping myself into my desk chair and like
Hold yourself
not
hostage.
moving and be like, write 500 words and don't move until you do, basically. So I've got to figure something out because I always call it Elephant List because I can never remember the name. Evernote is an app I have on my phone that used to be free, and as of the new year, they want to charge for it. So I've got to get all my notes off of it before they like block me with like subscription block it. I can't think of the actual term that they call that, but I've probably got 20 zines worth of ideas like started that I just can't fully flesh out. So one of these days it's bound to happen.
Well, that's something else that I'm trying to change lanes on, and that was part of the cover story things is like I tend to write like the old books where it's like, oh, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know and how it can be done and this and that. And in the new aesthetic since OSE came out with the like bullet points and with the like, this is the direction you go in. Well, heck, like Joey on the
I was
WHPA
just going to
stuff.
say, like, that's what I tried to do with mine, was just like, here's an idea, run with it.
Yeah. And it's funny how that's really all you need. I mean, I when I first got these, I was kind of like, it took me a minute. I was like, well, what's going on here? And then it's like, oh, I get it. This is not like holding my hand and walking me through. This is like, here are some things that obviously connect and that obviously are going to inspire the next step that you're going to take on your own because you're a big boy,
Yeah.
And that new flavor for writing game material. I mean, I'm trying to transition to it, but it sounds like, I mean, you've got what you need right there just to fit with how things are wanting to, how people want it presented nowadays anyhow.
Well, see, and I think for me, it's hard because I come from the same, like, I guess you'd say school of thought of wanting to like spell out everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like when my first draft of that WHPA adventure, I think was 3 pages. And then I trimmed it down to 2. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get this down to a 1-sheet, 1-shot. And I somehow did, but I don't know.
It is great. I mean,
well, thanks.
And that's, that's honestly a skill again, like I want to get better at is just the idea of like cutting things. Sometimes it's what you take out that makes it better than what you put in sometimes. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, I feel like if I had gone with my first draft of the Fairhaven Halloween, that's what it was that we what was it? The 1984 Spooktacular. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And had I gone with my first draft, it would have been so railroady because of having too much there. It would have been like, all right, well, you're going over here behind these bales of hay and watching the guys in the van unload the masks. Whereas the way you have to play it is you just got to make shit up. You know, like improv.
This is the kind of stuff that's going on and how you happen to, interact with that, how you get your players to do it or how they decide to do it. Yeah. It's got to be organic. It's got to just happen. And that's the brilliance of how this is done and how you did that. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for saying it's brilliant. Wow. That makes me feel pretty good. Thanks.
It's fun. I mean, it hit one of, most people just absolutely hate Halloween Season of the Witch, but for some reason I connected with that as a kid.
That's right. I forgot all about our connection with that one because that is the most underrated horror movie or one of the most underrated horror movies ever made. And it's all because it pissed people off that it didn't have Michael Myers in it. And it's like, it was a great movie. And have you seen any of the new Halloween movies?
I have not. I don't know why, but I like really like I like psychological thrillers and I like horror stories that you can almost believe are real, like The Conjuring, But for some reason, I've kind of lost my taste for slasher flicks, other than the really just like absurdly stupid ones.
Yeah, but like the original Halloween, at least before they'd made 80 of them, was believable.
Yeah,
It's and
Psychopath is
yeah. But now it's like, even with these newer Halloweens, like I still enjoyed them because Michael Myers. But they went more towards the gore side than the suspenseful, which John Carpenter went for. And it's like, but what they brought back are the silver shamrock masks in these new movies. They have,
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have the witch, the pumpkin, and the skeleton that these kids are all wearing when they're out trick-or-treating.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is it just the Easter egg, or is there like
No,
kind of
no, it's just an Easter egg. There's no, unless they're planning on trying to like turn it into an anthology again, which I'd be 100% behind, then I didn't see any underlying, like them laying groundwork for anything. It was just like, well, because the opening for Halloween Ends, which is the last one, they did in the style of the Halloween 3 opening. So it's really cool because it's got like the letters flying in, like the blue letters, and at least the intro is cool, and it sucked me right in. I'm like one of 5 people that enjoyed that movie because, and I think it was kind of that Halloween 3 vibe that they went for with what they did. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone that maybe wants to watch it for whatever reason, but yeah.
I might have to give it a go then. It's piqued my interest here.
It's yeah. If you do, like, I'd say check out the first one. You can kind of skip the middle one.
Okay.
They just went really weird with some stuff, and I mean, you kind of do have to watch them all, but I don't know. They did connect them, which makes it kind of cool, but. We've gone way off games here for a few minutes. What else you got in the pile back there? You got a lot of games back there.
So I will show you the book that not many people own, but everybody should. So this is called the D30 Sandbox Companion. It's by New Big Dragon Games, and it is amazing. It is like. So it's what is it, like 50 pages of randomizing charts that use the D30 for everything. Like you can set up entire cities with some of these charts. Some of these charts, like generating random adventures. Some of them are like generating NPCs, but they're really, really well done. And it's one of those things that I never knew I needed until I got it, and then I'm like, wow, this is the thing for like, you want to play a game, then you haven't planned anything, just pull this out and have your D30 ready.
Nice.
But,
I just wrote that down. I'm gonna have to grab that.
Yeah, that's a really, really good one. I got Bronx Beasts. I don't know if you've seen this. Is
that Eric's?
No,
he did. That's not.
It's not. It's not Eric Blow. If that's who you're talking about.
What is the vigilante? Why can't I remember the name of that title?
Let's see.
It's something vigilante.
You're not talking about the one he just did, right?
No, it was one that he had done, and I almost think it was Joey that was talking about being able to build TMNT or something like that using.
That's what this is. Okay. Here is they've taken the old TMNT game from Palladium, and they've kind of reworked it so now it works with DCC or MCC. Where's your name, buddy? Dan Stevie looks like is the guy that wrote this game. But it's really cool because, well, one, I really like the concept of the TMNT game, but it never played real well with the way their system works. So I like the fact that this basically takes the idea of building your mutant animals and then allows you to port that over to DCC and use that rule system and all the stuff. I mean, it works real well with Ninja City too. And then MCC, if you don't like the way that the Manimals work with MCC, that's a real good supplement to throw in and do them a little different.
I love the Manimals in DCC. What is?
I like them, but sometimes you get some really weird things that's like hard to explain,
Yeah.
like the deer that has cryogenics, and stuff like that.
I don't have. Man, I've had my shipping stuff piled up here. I didn't get to like set up a selection of books because I've started slowly selling stuff online, like games, Magic cards, and stuff like that. And the Magic card end of it took off way faster than I was ever expecting it to. And I've had this corner where my desk is just piled up with shipping stuff. So usually I have a table with stuff all piled up here so I can be like, oh, hey, what's up with this? Or can you tell me about this? Or something like that. But not in the cards with tonight.
We're talking board games. Have you seen or played this one? This is the new version from the one when we were kids.
I have seen that at the game store and almost thrown it on the counter and pulled out the credit card a couple times.
Yeah, I have no idea what it's going for. I got it on the Kickstarter, but
we lost a book.
Phenomenal game. It is so fun, and it makes me want to make an RPG that has really good vehicle rules in it, because that's one thing I've never ran across, is a game where you can like port from being a character to a character in a vehicle and it just feels right,
Yeah. Well, so you could have like a getaway driver type thing. That would be pretty cool if you could do that.
But it seems to me like a lot of games you get into like a vehicle and it's like either the game feels like it shifted rule sets, like you're now playing a miniatures war game or whatever, or it feels like there's no connection between the character and the vehicle. It doesn't feel like that organic kind of thing that you would want to have with like being a driver in a vehicle or whatever.
Yeah. There's got to be a way to do it. We'll have to put our heads together and see what we can come up with.
Nut here. Yeah.
I almost wonder if you split it up between the different dice in the dice chain. If like I'm trying to think, something will pop into my head here in a minute. Like if you start on the low end of the dice chain and work your way up to the 30 somehow.
Like that's kind of like encapsulating the idea of like
being at your breakneck speed. Yeah. So like that you go, like as you shift, you go from using your D3 up to your D30.
Yeah, increasing the speed.
Yeah, and that you've got a higher probability of either wiping out or whatever somehow. There's got to be a way of making that work.
Well, I wonder like shifting between dice, like maybe like your maneuverability starts off at a, I don't know, like say D12, and your speed starts off at a D12, but you can go up to D14, but then this is going to drop to D10 for maneuverability or whatever.
So you got like multi-tables almost that you're working off from at the.
That's.
I think we're onto something.
Holy grail there is to get a good character in the vehicle and it feels right and it plays fun and you can do the chase scene and it doesn't just feel like, oh, now your speed's this, their speed's that, they win. You got to have that. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to have that kind of edge to it. It's like there's
every
something
round
on the line.
Something, yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever played Gaslands?
I have not. I've seen it played and been like, man, that would be an expensive addiction to get into that I would.
It is. I have a lot of Matchbox cars that I've started to break apart in my basement. Nice. But the only problem that I have around me is, and it's partly from, believe it or not, being incredibly shy. I don't venture out to the game store much. Like TotalCon next weekend is going to be a big thing for me, being around that many people, as shy as I am. And to make it through the weekend will be like, whew.
Is it one of those things where it just like kind of like drains you to be out like around a lot of people?
Yeah, well, I've got body dysmorphia for one. Like, it's like when I look in the mirror, it's just I've been working on it. Like, what everybody
you've seen
else
us gamers, right?
well, like what everybody else sees, like I see completely differently. It's really the only way I can describe it. And I'm just weird about some certain things. And like that's why I started doing this really was to push myself out of my comfort zone.
Good for you, man. That's awesome.
I'm like, you're never gonna come out of your shell and if you don't force yourself out. So it sounds kind of cliche and corny, but I started listening to like self-improvement stuff. Like, you know, like if I saw like a 5-minute Tony Robbins video, I'd be like, oh, what the hell? I'll watch it. Can't hurt. And I would actually take some of the principles and try to apply them, and I'll be damned, but they worked. And I'm like, well, fine, we're going to push ourselves right out of the comfort zone and go for it. So, like, 3 years ago, I would never have imagined of just randomly messaging you and being like, hey, Lou, how would you like to come on the show? I would never have done that.
I'm listening to you, but it's like, man, I mean, you seem like you're just so cool and comfortable with everyone that's been on your show. I'm not believing it. It's like, wow, you know, it's hard to believe.
I feel like, and like, it's funny because I feel like I come off as terrified. Like you can't really see it. Like I feel like it feels like I'm about 120 degrees right now. And like I'm having so much fun and everything, but it's just this weird thing of like putting myself in front of other people. I don't know what it is, and I've never really been able to drill to the bottom of it. And I've tried, so I can't quite figure it out. And even like my therapist will be like, dude, you're like the most laid back, relaxed person, and you're comfortable around anyone. But yet you have all these things that you can't do. Like I can't go to Walmart and go in. Like I'll sit out in the car while my fiance goes and grabs stuff because I can't be around the people and the noise, and it's
Is it like a stimulation thing?
Yeah.
I know, like
I can go out with like noise canceling headphones and I'd be fine, but I can't interact with the people I'm out with because they'll be like, Dave, they're like this close to me and like Dave, and I'm just like dum 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 walking because I can't hear them, and then it goes back to the whole I feel like I look like a weirdo with these big headphones on walking around grocery shopping just so I'm not overstimulated.
I don't know. I think that's like a common thing now, you know. It's I mean, I think it's always been a common thing, but it's like something we're starting to realize, you know, as a human race that there's like there's differing degrees of like what we can deal with, you know, social stimulation wise, and who we can deal with, you know. Like I know for a lot of people it's like once they've, you know, been around a person enough, it's not a trigger anymore. It doesn't like heighten their you know, senses or sensory input or whatever. But you know, I would not have guessed. That's wild. That's awesome.
Like,
I mean,
I am sitting here right now.
I mean, there's a lot of people I'm sure that are right in this same boat, you know.
Well, and really it's funny because it goes back to what I was saying about games. I hope that someday, it could be 10, 20, 10,000 years down the road, someone stumbles across this YouTube video on a palm recorder or something in the year 2115 that's having a hard time going out. They hear this guy say, you know, oh, I'm terrified of this and that, but I push myself out of my comfort zone. And they're like, screw it, I'll try pushing myself. Then I'll have 100 years from now have done my job. So
the Gaslands thing now, I mean, the one edge you have on that is that's like such a sexy game, right? That like if you just take that to a game shop and set it down, like you're going to be playing it with somebody. Somebody's going to be up and like, what's that? Can I play?
You would think that. About 2 or 3 years ago, I love like zombie outbreak stuff, like anything zombie, I love it. and I picked up Outbreak Undead from Hunter's Entertainment. 3D printed all these like post-apocalyptic buildings, set up a whole table with all this terrain, advertised it for like 2 weeks. I was going to be running the game, and I sat there for like 3 hours waiting for someone to sit down. And I was like, "You got to be kidding me." And it was so deflating that I half wonder if that's why I don't go back and try to run more games.
Would it have been like, I mean, was it like maybe on the tail end of the whole COVID thing?
No, this was actually pre-COVID. So it was probably about 5 years ago, I'd say, that I did this. And it was just like, son of a gun. Like, I've got all this terrain. And then I'm like, well, maybe I'll just come and sit with 5 character sheets out in front of people on the table and see if anyone sits down. But it's weird. Like, there's a very strong gaming community around here. And maybe it's just because I'm not as active as I could be, but I don't see it like there being any unifier, so to speak, to bring like all the gamers to one place. They'll be like, oh, I like this place, but this place is too far away. And it may be because I'm in Maine, where everything's like, we don't say it's just a mile down the road. We're like, oh, it's about 2 hours that way. You know? I'm sure things are kind of the same in Texas. You know, it's like, yeah, you go a couple hours that way and you'll find Aberdeen, you know, and
yeah, I know a lot of those guys down there will talk about like driving an hour and a half to go play a game. And it's like, for me, that's like, wow, you know, that would take me almost out of my state, no matter which way I go.
But that's kind of what it's like here.
It's funny.
You know, it's like I've got one game store that's about 25 minutes from my house. Well, 2. One that really has like a bigger community. And then the next game store is probably that I am consciously aware of is probably 45 minutes from my house. Oh, wow. If not further.
Man, I'm spoiled. I got 3 within 20 minutes.
Nice. Wow. Like there may be more, and they just don't advertise or promote, or I don't know what it is. But I know when the time comes that I want to open my own store, you're not going to be able to shut me up. There will be people hitting like unfollow, like all this freaking guy does is talk about games.
Do you happen to know Edwin Nagy of Frog Out Games? He lives up in Maine. I don't know if that's a name you would be familiar with.
I know the name, but I didn't know he lived up here.
Yeah. He does like Skype of Cthulhu is his big podcast. Aside from mine that he's on, but yeah, no, it's funny because that guy, man, he's in like 5 different games now. A lot of them are online, so I guess it's not, you know, it's not the game store kind of environment, but I've always been amazed, you know, thinking of him living in Maine and playing as often as he does. It's like, wow, man.
You said he's all online.
I don't know that everything he does is online, but I know a lot of it is.
Yeah, because I've been trying to think. I'd love to get. It's not that I don't have. Oh, it's the time for everything. Really, I would love to like stream live plays like 3-4 nights a week on the channel, but it's just I don't have. You say I don't have time, but I could stay up till like midnight. If I just burn the candle at both ends and work on like 400 things instead of 300.
Yeah, you know, time is the thing though, man. I mean, like I used to do on Friday nights, every other Friday, I would do the Grape Ape Express, which is a Twitch channel for DCC with Matt Robertson.
Yep.
And it just got to be in like with that and with my regular game and with writing and with school and this and that. And it was like when my wife finally came to me, she's like, you know, you gotta get rid of something. You've got too much going on. It's, you know, driving you nuts. And but it is like you always feel like, oh, I could do just one more thing though. You know, I can stay up a little later. I just feel like it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like how many sticks can I pile up before they break or fall? Yep, I'm good at doing that. And then, like, my fiance will do what your wife does and be like, you should probably pull back a little bit. And I'll be like, nah, I've got this. And then 2 weeks later, when I'm burnt out from everything, and I'm like, man, I had to cut this out. Why didn't you say something? And she's like, I did.
Yep.
Yeah, she gets to do that a lot with me.
Yeah, that's what makes a relationship work, looking after each other and kind of
Yep.
seeing what you can't see in front of your own nose.
You know, you talked. Oh, my brain keeps going back to previous parts of our conversation. We were talking about Tom Wilson. You said he
Yes.
puts out a lot of work a year. And it's funny because it's going to be another Tom or Tommy, but Tommy Sunzenauer.
Sounds familiar.
He was with Blake Games and now is on his own. I believe he's calling his company, I recall, Sunsonaut. But he has made some really cool stuff. Back around Halloween, he did a game that he called Obscure. That's like a found footage horror RPG.
I remember that one being advertised.
And he just did one for Zinequest. It's like an 8-bit game called Groton that I backed. Like, I love his work. When he was with Blake Games, they did this one game. I'm going to see if I can reach it without disconnecting. I do have one shelf with an arm's reach. But they made this game here, Goblin Gonzo, and it is, yeah, I think you'd like his work. But he did that with this guy, Ricky Hogard, and then it was Tommy, and now he's on his own, and he's doing some really just cool stuff.
Oh, there's Rotten there. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
Googling
you're
while
good,
we're
man.
talking.
You're good.
Confused.
You're good. But it looks like a lot of fun, like a quick little.
That is awesome.
And I can't
Yeah,
wait.
no, I mean, he looks like he's right in that space of all the stuff that I'm like getting excited about nowadays.
Yeah. But he, like, you know, Blair Witch was a wow inspiration for Obscure, with that being like the first found footage movie. And
I'm trying to remember because I might have even heard him on an interview about that one.
I've had him on a few times. So
okay, that maybe it was your show then. That because it's like his the Obscure is it a journaling game? Like, is it like a one player?
Oh no, I believe
okay.
I believe it's a group game.
Okay.
I could be wrong. Now I'm gonna have to.
else,
Now I'm gonna have to Google. All right. Let me go here. I don't think it was journaling.
Because well, actually, the one that I guess it wasn't really journaling, but vlogging. Like, it was a found footage game, but it was solo play, and you were making video responses instead of actual journal responses, so that it was like by the time you were done, it was almost like a found footage movie.
I don't think that's this one.
Okay.
And of course, my computer doesn't want to go to Kickstarter. It's like, focus on talking to Lou, Dave.
I'm pulling it up right here. Okay, found footage, inspired horror RPG. Oh, let's see. Yeah, okay, no, this is a different one, but I almost like it better because I don't know why, but I've just never gotten into like solo play games. I mean, I like.
It's very hard to get into.
Right now, but
it's hard to do, being used to the group dynamic.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me. I've got a couple that I've picked up, and it's just really hard for me to sit down and play a game by myself.
Well, it looks like this is he's kind of used a bit of the Tunnel Goons engine on this. That's awesome.
Yes, he did.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait to get that one because some of the pictures on that just creep me out. Like there's this little video he's got of this, and it reminded me of the Blair Witch. That if you scroll around, it shows this like just pale, almost albino creature that just appears out of nowhere. And I'm just like, nope. I would just turn around and start going the other way and be like, nope, 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 nope.
Cool stuff. Man, there's always something new under the sun. You think you've seen it all. You think you got every game that you could possibly want to have, and then you see something like, oh, that's
I know.
different.
Like I've tried to like just with dumping all my money into trying to start the store. I have almost avoided Kickstarter during Zinequest this year just because I went freaking ballistic last year backing zines.
Oh, mercy.
And it's like yeah, my fiance was ready to kill me, I think, this summer. It's like every day, like 3 boxes showing up on the doorstep. And I'm like, it's okay. They're already paid for. We already spent the money. So, yeah. Trying to think what else here that I can grab without. Oh. Have you ever played Mothership?
I have not.
That's another game I really want to try out. And I backed the new one. It's a box set for what they're basically calling 1E. I think they are calling it 1E. And I can't wait to get it and play it because it's just like cramped sci-fi horror. It's basically...
I've heard great things about it. I've heard great things about it, and I've heard great things about the Free League Aliens game, and both those are settings that I'd love to. I mean, they've both kind of got a similar like industrial sci-fi horror kind of feel to them. But yeah, I mean, everyone claims that everyone that's ever played it has always said, "Oh yeah, it's an amazing game." You know, and it's got that thing we were talking about earlier, where they're kind of like, "Hey, you know, play in our sandbox."
Yeah. Yep. And pre-COVID, or this is probably, I shouldn't even say pre-COVID. It was about a month, maybe 2 before everything went into lockdown and all this. I had gone out and bought some of those Philips smart light bulbs that you could change colors on. I had downloaded the Nostromo self-destruct sequence sound, and I had all the soundboard all made up. But I had it so that when things really went south on whatever kind of freighter they were on or whatever, I was going to hit a button on my phone. All the lights would go red. Or it was when if they armed the self-destruct, I was going to have the lights go red and then hit the self-destruct sequence sound on the soundboard. And it would count down from 5 minutes. It would be, you have 4.5 minutes to, and it would have just been so cool if COVID hadn't happened. And during COVID,
you know, figure out like a way to make that like portable for a convention or something. Do like a little whiteboard or something, or
get set up like a 10 by 10 tent and just run one game at a time in the tent.
That'd be awesome.
That would be, because people would like, that would just be so cool to be playing a game like Alien, and then all of a sudden all the lights go red and all these klaxons start sounding and everything. That would be so fun. And then, yeah, I would, like during COVID, I would just go and sit in my basement like some sad kid and hit the button on my phone and watch all the lights turn red. And it's like, yeah, what could have been?
Oh,
I was just going to bring up 3D printing and ask you if you've ever dabbled in it, but I had another question I was going to ask about it at the same time, and I don't remember what it was. But have you ever done any 3D printing?
A little bit. I through the school I work at, I have access to a 3D printer, so I played around a little bit. I bought Fat Dragon produces the Dragon Lock.
Yeah, those things are great.
I bought those STLs and have printed some of that, and really cool stuff. I need to, if I'm going to get serious into it, I need to probably get like a higher end one, because the one that I've got access to is not, you know, I mean, it's okay, but you look at it and go, it's can see a lot of the lines are
Yeah.
pretty strong.
I picked up a resin printer this fall.
Oh, really?
And holy crap, does it stink for
Oh,
one.
no.
It
Got
had-
like a nail polish smell kind of thing, or what?
Yeah, it's really what it is. But then you also have to clean the prints in alcohol to get all the extra resin off them. So you're popping open like this 4-quart container of 90% alcohol. And if you don't have a mask on, which sometimes I would forget to throw on, you just get this face full of like alcohol fumes, and it's like, ugh.
Guys.
Yeah, and exactly, you're just like, oh, when you stand up away from it, but it's so fun because, like, it's so neat to be able to bring your world to life, like physically, and I had another idea. I don't know if you saw my channel update that actually had more of my starting soon screen than me talking, ironically. But one of the things I want to start doing, and I almost wanted to do it with you, but with my uncle passing away and everything, it wouldn't have worked out, was I want to start doing what Paint and Talk with Dave, where I'll print off, like, say, 2 identical models, ship a second model out to, like, you with 3 or 4 different paints in it that might go together, and be like, let's shoot the shit and paint some models. I think that would be fun. Yeah. And at the end of it, we could compare whatever kind of monstrosities we had painted, because I don't know about you, I am a horrible painter.
So I used to do a lot with like miniatures and wargaming, and then once I started having kids, like more and more that stuff kind of got boxed up and put in the garage. So it's been a while. I used to be half decent, but it's been a while. I don't know. It's anybody's guess if I'd be any good nowadays.
I shouldn't say I'm horrible, because like 2 or 3, well, it was before COVID, obviously, but I won Best Sci-Fi Diorama for this.
Well, there you go.
For this big, they had said they wanted at max, it could be a 12 by 12 diorama. And I just had this scene I had to get out of my head. So I made a 48 by 24 diorama of basically a Star Wars starport with the Mandalorian and Grogu, a bunch of stormtroopers and all this stuff. And I brought it into the store, and the store owner was like, what the hell, dude? I said like a foot by a foot. And he's like, what is this? I walk in with 2 like big green foam panels full of sand. And I'm like, this is my diorama. And he's like, that's a scene. That's not a diorama. But it was funny. He's like, he did like a live broadcast, and he's like, I've got to give it to this guy because he went all out.
What scale was that? I mean,
28 millimeter. Like I did it like.
So you had like the Star Wars miniatures, like
From Star Wars Legion, actually. Yep. I had picked up some stormtroopers for that. My buddy Mike Sheridan printed a bunch of minis for me in resin prior to me getting a resin printer, and he sent those, and I had so much fun doing it. I spent probably 3 weeks working on that thing, and it's so much fun.
Speaking of Star Wars, have you played any Star Wars role-playing games? And if so, what's your favorite of them?
I wish I had my shelf within reach. The only games I've actually played for Star Wars are the Fantasy Flight games, okay. Star Wars. And I've got almost everything for all 3
settings on that.
Yeah, because there's Age of Rebellion, Edge of the Empire, and Force and Destiny, I think, is the other one.
I think so.
And my buddy Jonathan was actually running a game that a few of us were going to play, and it wound up being just me that showed up. And he's like, well, you want to play? I'm like, frick it, yeah, I'll be a bounty hunter, and I'll go at it on my own. And we had so much fun, because I played a Wookiee bounty hunter, and all I would do is just like, and he'd be like, what do you want to do? And I would try my best to never communicate in English.
Yeah, so I've played it. I was really, really big into the West End game Star Wars. In fact, down on the shelf that's behind the chair, but I've got like almost a complete set of their books.
Oh, nice.
But and then when Wizards bought the license, I bought most of the Wizards books that they did with the D20 Star Wars, but then I kind of fell out of it. But I really wish I had gotten into the Fantasy Flight. I've heard a lot of people say that the weird dice that they use really like it was like perfect for a cinematic feel. And
Yeah, they're
really
good.
captured that game really well.
Yeah, the dice system's really good, but the game is still around. They sold the license, ended up going to another company that is going to basically keep going with that system.
Oh, really?
Yep. So,
Yeah.
and they actually have a book that they just re-released, which is one of the few books I don't have that I've got to get. It's set on Dathomir, you know, with like Darth Maul's people with the
The
Zabrak.
what are those guys called? It starts with an E, doesn't it? But yeah, no, I know what you're talking.
And yeah, I've got to get it just because I'm a completionist. And I think that's what drives my fiance craziest. Because I can't just get a zine. It's like with Crawl, there's 12 issues. You can't just have an issue of Crawl. You know, you've got to have them all.
Yep. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I've gotten better over time, but that's been my thing too. It's like once I get into something, it's like I wanna know that I had it all. I want to know that everything's there. If I want to go back, it's all there.
Yeah. Even if it gets boxed up, like it's the coolest thing. About a month ago, I'm going through my basement and I found those old Time Life fantasy books.
Oh yeah, like the faux leather.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot I had these. And I'm going through them and it just like, it was again like going through a time machine back to being 9 years old, sitting on my couch and like flipping through those books. So it was great.
Yeah, those back in the day, I mean, like, because they had like those, they had the Western ones, they had the ones on like the alien abductions and mysteries of the unknown and all that.
Yeah, that book series had like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness monster, and all that. That's right.
And I mean, like, I mean, how inspiring was that in our childhood to have things like that where you would I don't know about you, but like we would have them at the library at school. And so you could check one out, and then, for the weekend, you're like the expert on aliens because you read the timeline book.
No, they didn't have those in my school. We had our media club in middle school, which in the 8th grade we watched Evil Dead, which I don't know how the teacher did not get fired for letting us watch that, but there were maybe 6 or 7 of us in the media club, and we just fell in love with that movie. And I have been both a Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi fan ever since. So, oh man, wow, we've been going for an hour and a half. Not bad. We'll have to see. I think Brian Shutter and I still hold the record.
Yeah, I think I was watching that night. That was like was it like almost 3 hours?
Oh no, it was closer to 5. Or
was it? Okay, maybe that's
it was like 4.5 or 5 hours we went. And then about 3 weeks after that, I had my interview with Martin Willett, and we went 4.5 hours. And Father Goose and we went like 4. I can, I don't know, this channel will never get monetized because it's not even a goal of mine, it's just, this is fun, man, to be able to get together with buddies. And like we were saying before, it's like sitting down and having a beer with a buddy and catching up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have fun doing it. That's all I care about. And it seems like the people I've been talking to have been having fun. So I hope you're having fun.
Me, your show and there's a couple others like Rolling Bones and Save for Half. Like it's like having company when you got stuff to do, but you feel kind of disconnected, but you still want to like feel like you're around people and have a connection with people. It's just nice to be sitting on that conversation and listening to people,
Yeah,
and what they're up to and what they're doing.
I've been wondering if I would be better off after I do the live videos of doing an edit and separate the audio from the video and then just do a podcast, like post to Spotify or whatever, of just the audio. And because it's kind of like, I think my episodes are more attuned to like the long car drive, you know, and it's like, and I almost wonder if I'd be, I don't know, get more listens, for lack of a better way of saying it, if I were on Spotify or something like that, versus getting the views on video, because you can't really drive around and listen to Dave and Lou talk for 3 hours and watch us while you're trying to drive at the same time. So it'd be easier to, you know, I'm thinking to just connect Bluetooth, set your phone down and listen to us talk, which you can do with YouTube. But I feel like there's that wonder of like, what are they doing? Are they like when I'm like, oh, look at this or whatever. So I don't know.
Well, and then just the format, or not the format, but the delivery platforms. Like, you know, are there people out there that aren't looking on YouTube because they just want audio? And so, yeah, I don't know. It's something to explore for sure.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of the artists that I work with, that's one of the things they do is they'll pop in audio, and then, you know, their eyes are on their art, but, you know, they've got stuff they can listen to.
Yeah. Well, when I'm doing anything, I've always got headphones on with just music going and just jam out until I get on Facebook and get severely distracted by it.
Yeah, that is a dangerous thing.
It is.
Facebook, man.
I try so hard to stay away from it, and then someone will send me a message, and I'm like, don't click on it. Don't click on it. Oh, no, you did it. Oh, so, yeah, I'm sure there's plenty more we can talk about. I'm looking around at different stuff in here. You know, something I've recently been trying out that I haven't seen with independent publishers that I often wonder how it would work if, say, I'm a grumpy old guy too, Jonathan. Jonathan Sullivan is still in here. And thanks for sticking around, Jonathan. It's usually below below the screen usually.
Okay, let's see.
But he said that he prefers podcast to video, but he's a grumpy old guy, and so am I sometimes. And Jonathan, I'd love to get you on and talk. So, if
yeah,
like
he and I are actually hitting up North Texas this year. He's going to be my driving partner.
Nice. Did you find it?
For some reason, I can't get tonight's episode to come up on YouTube.
If you go to the live tab on my channel, it's really weird the way that it makes me set it up.
All right. Start this over. Keeps wanting to, there. Okay, here we go. Now we're getting into the role playing stuff. All right. Sorry, there's this. It keeps wanting to give me all this like video game stuff. It's like just games with Dave. Give me that.
It's really funny how I have my channel as just initially it was just games with Dave. Everybody else's channel but mine that had either games or Dave in it would come up. And it still does it unless you do like games with Dave RPG interviews. Then it will bring everything up usually.
There it is. And then you said, oh, the live. I see it now. There's a live. There it is. All right. And now,
all right, Jonathan just said you have his email, so I'll get that from you after the show and link up with him, and we'll get something set up, my man.
Yeah, he's another, like I was talking about Tom, Jonathan's another guy that's like, just like so easy to talk to. And he, have you got his, man, my mind is not good tonight. The Gong Farmers Militia was like one of his first products he did. It was during Zinequest. It's a zine of like henchmen that you can hire for DCC.
No, I'm gonna have to. I've got a
Yeah,
nice list of notes from this one. Gong Farmers Militia.
yeah. But it's a fun. I think there's I want to say there's 6 different like 4 higher characters. So it has a nice little section in the back that talks about like the history of playing with like torchbearers and hirelings and stuff.
Nice.
Kind of brings it into the DCC world. But yeah, he's a great guy. I get to actually play our Sunday game. He's in on my Sunday games that we do online.
Nice.
So
Yeah, I've been playing Blades in the Dark
nice.
like every other Friday with my group. I mixed up my weeks a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was last week I was supposed to play Blades, and it was this week. And I'm like, well, my character's just out doing something this week. And I'm like, I'm talking to Lou. We're not moving the day. Lou and I are hanging. I need the.
Do you guys play like a consistent campaign, or is it like a new set of characters each time you play Blades in the Dark? Or
Oh no, it's a consistent campaign.
oh wow.
My guy, the character I'm playing, his name is Stanton, and he's an ex-blue coat or an ex-cop. And the first mission we went on, we got hired by this group. They had 3 people that they wanted taken out in a specific order, or maybe it wasn't a specific order. But we went and to this place where this guy lived, and the cop comes walking out of one of the apartments. And everybody's like, oh shit. And I'm like, I do a flashback. I used to walk the beat with this guy. And he's like, he looks and he's like, Stanton? And I'm like, hey, and like chatted up with him while the rest of my group gets up to this guy's place. Yeah, it's such a, have you ever played it?
I have not. I've got the book, read it. I've watched like live plays of it, and I think the whole job clock thing is just a brilliant thing, and the flashback mechanic's brilliant. But I've not had the chance to play it.
Yep, it's too bad. Well, maybe I'll get a game going. I've got to get some games going on this channel. It is, after all, called Games with Dave, so I've got to get some games going. I keep hearing something like a radio or something, like a police scanner. It's almost like my headphones are picking up something. It's weird. Yeah, Blades in the Dark. And then on Sundays, I've been playing Candela Obscura, which was inspired by Blades in the Dark. And yeah, I just love games like that, like the narrative-driven games.
Yeah, I've always wondered with Blades in the Dark if it could sustain a campaign, or if it's the sort of thing, because most of the live plays that I've listened to and stuff, they spiral out of control pretty fast, and usually at the end of the session, it's like 1 or 2 of the gang is able to beat feet and get out of there, and everybody else is screwed. But I don't know if that's just.
We've had situations like we've come very close to situations like that where like I almost got stuck, or actually my 2 other party members almost got stuck, and I did something to distract the police. Being a former cop again, I'm just like, oh, I do a flashback in this. And the GM was like, all right, I like that a lot. And we just went with it. And then I just run down the alley and I'm like, whew, that was a close call. But if you want to see a consistent campaign, have you ever checked out any of the live play stuff from Glass Cannon?
I have not.
They make some really good stuff, for one of them being their Blades in the Dark series. And the other one, if you like Call of Cthulhu, they have one called Time for Chaos that they're just starting season 2 on. And they do such a great job with everything. Like the guy that GMs their Blades in the Dark game is so much fun. And the 3 people that they have that put the crew together are so great together that it's just.
And the channel name is Glass Cannon, or
yep, Glass Cannon. It's either just Glass Cannon or Glass Cannon Network.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check that out.
But they do a really good job. I just watched them play this past week the new Marvel Multiverse game that came out. I've got to play that one. There's so many games I want to play. That. Then there's G.I. Joe and Transformers that Renegade Games did that I've got to play more of.
So I hate to be this guy that's critical of somebody else's game, but so I was not real happy with my experience playing the Transformers game from Renegade Games. And it's just I don't know what it was. And it could have been just the game master, but so I played it a couple years ago at Gen Con when I think it was just before it got released.
Yep.
And I guess I felt like, so obviously my connection to Transformers is back when it first came out, Generation 1. And I was thinking, oh, this will be kind of like that, and it'll be kind of maybe hinged around like the tech specs and stuff like that used to come on the toy packages.
Yep.
But it just, like, the system didn't have any real connection to that. And again, I might have just had a bad experience. I probably need to play it again, but I didn't feel like there was any need for my character to transform. Like, I didn't really have anything different in car mode than what I had as robot. And I don't know. Again, maybe my game master really didn't have a good grasp. This was prior to when it was released, so maybe, I don't know. He was working for them though, so I would have assumed they would have trained him on how it all went down.
Yeah, weird. Huh. Yeah, I haven't played it that much. I actually, what is that system called? Essence? Is that the Essence system?
I know it's the same between the different properties.
Yeah, I think it's the Essence 20. I think it's Essence 20 is the name of the system, and I'm not familiar with it enough to.
But the basic mechanic is I remember it was like you would have a certain die kicker that would go with your roll. So like if you're really good at something, maybe it was a bonus D8.
Yeah.
If you weren't so good, it'd be a D4. And you'd roll and try to hit a target number. But I guess I didn't feel I didn't feel like there was any like reason to transform back and forth. I didn't feel like I don't know. It didn't feel like Transformers to me. But again, could have been the game master.
Yeah, but like you said, you would have thought that with them working for them, it would have been.
Yeah, that they would have been like, known exactly how to run it. And and I'll throw this out here too, because this kind of maybe sours the pot or whatever, but I did like a fan-made Transformers game a long time ago, like even before I did the whole wholesome entertainment thing, and just kind of put it out there. So it might even still be floating on the web somewhere, I don't know. But that was one of the things in my mind in that game that I had to have design wise, was like you would have a certain set of abilities and skills and maneuvers you could do in this mode versus that mode. But then to change modes, there was like an energon thing that you'd have to give up energy to do that. So you couldn't just always keep moving back and forth.
Right.
Whereas this didn't seem to have that component, which I felt was kind of a necessary thing for the property. But
it does seem like that would be like a thing you'd need. I would agree. Yeah,
but, I like the books. Like as far as the art of them and the way they're laid out, they're beautiful. I'd like to try the G.I. Joe one, because that's another property that I have a fond memory of from being a kid, and I think it might hit more for me than the Transformers, just because it's more of a standard. You're a character, and just using tools and doing things. But I don't know.
Yeah, I almost feel like Transformers would have to be like really fast paced, to really grasp what Transformers was. Where, like you were just saying, G.I. Joe is more of like that. I'm playing a character. This is what I'm doing. And I feel like you've got to have those situations with Transformers that does what you said, of give you that reason of why am I transforming from a robot into a helicopter at this moment. You know, like, hey, this is about to blow. Let's get out of here. You know, it's like Autobots transform and roll out. You know, it's
So like in the version that I made, and I'm not saying it's great because it's not. I'm sure it's a steaming pile of crap because it was just something I did, you know, as a fan. But like you would have so if you were a helicopter, you would maybe have the ability to create like vortexes or tornadoes or something in that mode. You know, spinning your blades.
Yep.
Whereas in your robot mode, maybe you had like, you know, some sort of like winch system or something built into your robot that it could do, or you know, you had your access to your laser pistols as a robot, which you didn't have necessarily as a helicopter, maybe not, you know, all of your equipment. But yeah, to me that's the crux of that property is you got to have a reason to go from one to the other, and there's got to be some manner to keep you from just bouncing back and forth and always having the best of both worlds. Yeah.
Well, I really dig what you were saying of how the energon level would go down in your games the more you transformed and whatnot.
Well, and then it also is kind of used as like a stun system. So like you could, you know how like in those cartoons nobody ever died, they just you know, they gave up or whatever, they, you know, flew away in the explosion,
right?
So that was the other thing, is that, you know, there was like I think I called it Life Spark to kind of go with the Transformers theme, but then there's your energon level. More likely than anything, when you were being shot you were losing energon, and when you got down so low it was kind of like, oh, you're exhausted and out of the action. So but there's a game by what's her name, Celeste, I'm gonna forget her name, Celeste something, but she put out a game called Cartoon Action Hour, and it does a pretty good job of kind of hitting all those properties, being able to do like GI Joe and He-Man and all that, and Transformers. But hers, I'm trying to think, like in her version, I don't think there's necessarily, I think like the way it was designed is if you did something like Transformers, your alternate mode was almost like a superpower. So like once you turned into a race car or whatever, now you've got like super speed, and you've got like, I don't know, like some sort of special maneuverability or something,
oil slicks and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
that something like that. Yes, yeah. So that again, it made it different, so that when you were in robot mode, you didn't have that, but then that was your thing, like, you know, almost like activating your superpower, and then you were in car mode and had those things. But she did a really good job. I remember. I mean, I've got her game, but I think it's in my games that are in a chest in another room, kind of boxed away. But man, I wish I could remember what her last name was. Celeste something or other. But Cartoon Action Hour.
Yeah, I just wrote that one down. So
come across it, it's a fun game. It's pretty old though. I think it came out in like 2000 or 1998 or something, somewhere in that early range there.
1998 doesn't feel as long ago as it was.
It really is, right?
Well, it's like my 13-year-old loves to point out that I was born in the late 1900s. And I'm just like, you little brat. And she's like, well, at least I wasn't born in the 1900s. It's like, yeah. Ooh.
Like those that meme that was going around that said something along the lines of like, the 1980s were as long ago as what World War II was back in the
1980s. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it's like, I just can't believe that. It's just, I can't conceive that that's true, but it is.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, and I don't know if our parents were the same or our grandparents were the same. Like, I'm almost 50, but I don't feel it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, it really, it touches on, again, something that Joey says about learning to nurture your inner 12-year-old. And I feel like our generation kind of nailed that.
Yeah.
I don't know if we were the initiates of doing it, but like, you know, I look at Cocoon, and Wilford Brimley in that movie was just a couple of years older than we are now. And he looks like he's like 80 in that
Yeah.
movie. And you can't really pick anyone from our generation that's 55 that looks old. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? And it's
No,
like,
exactly.
it's like,
I
look at
get you
Paul
exactly.
Rudd. You know, God, that guy is older than Wilfred Brimley was in Cocoon and looks like he's 35. I don't know if it's modern medicine or we're just more chilled out than people were back then or what it is, but
I know that. I mean, like I feel like our parents' generation, they worked so hard and like their lives were so serious that it bought us this whole like ability to be more chill and playful. And not saying that we all haven't been through a lot, but comparatively, I know that I grew up with a lot more free time than what my father did. Um,
oh
but
yeah.
yeah, it's weird how different those generations are.
Yeah. And like you said, it's when I think of like my parents when I was a kid, serious is the perfect word to describe it. 'Cause it was like everything was so, at least for me, I don't know if it was just my family or what, but everything always had such structure to it compared to today. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like when one kid's mom was yelling to him back in 1985 to go eat dinner, everybody went to go eat dinner, you know? And it's
Yeah.
like now it's just kind of like, oh, we ate at 8 last night. Oh, well, we ate at 6. And it's just so different.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah, you're right. I mean, like, I do feel like everything was pretty regimented growing up. Like dinner was, I don't know. I think in our house it was pretty much at like 6 o'clock. That was dinner, and
yeah.
every night was dinner at 6. And nowadays, with my wife and I, some nights at 7:30, some nights at 6, some nights, it just kind of much more fluid. And then like my parents, like when I think about them having fun, like most of the time their fun was watching other people have fun, like watching like a game on TV or whatever.
Yeah. And our
I don't really
fun's,
remember. I guess when they were younger, I do remember them going and doing like square dancing and some stuff. But when they were my age, I don't remember them doing anything other than just being at home.
yeah. And that's the same memory for me. And I wonder if we're different because that's what we saw. And we're like, dang, I don't want to be 50 and sitting on my couch and falling asleep at 6 every night. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, so maybe it's a combination of all of it or something. But yeah, we're lucky. Like,
I'm sign off on that one. Much, much luckier than a lot of folks.
yeah.
I'm so glad.
Oh, I think about it every day. Like it's something I try to do is just be grateful for from where I started to where I am now. It's like I could quote Lou Gehrig saying, I am the luckiest man alive. You know, it's like, because I believe it, you know, yeah. You want to take 5? We've been going for a while. I wouldn't mind bio and we can come back. All right, folks, we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Thanks for watching. right, and we are back for a few more minutes here. So where we took our break, I took advantage of it to grab a book, and I think I saw it in your pile, and this is one of my favorites to have come out this year. The Vorpal Almanac.
I don't have a copy here next to me, but yes.
Oh my God, I love that book.
Yes.
I'm not going to cheat.
That's one I'm starting to see in the wild a lot too, which you don't, a lot of these small publishing books you don't see out at game stores, but I think it's been like 3 times now I've seen that on the shelf.
That's awesome, because like, folks, if you get the opportunity to buy this book, don't hesitate. Get it when you can. Bring it home, love it, read it, nurture it, and use it, because I can't remember. I've got to cheat and look at this.
If I remember right, that's the illustrations in that are by John Hambone McGuire's wife, right? His new wife. Not that he had a wife beforehand, but that they just got married.
It says Sally Cantrino. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that would be. Yep. Yeah. Levi and her knocked it out of the park with this book. And another one that I don't know if you've checked out yet that I'm in love with is The Monster Overhaul.
Don't have it, want it.
And I saw that at the game store, and I think I teleported from the door to the shelf that I saw that on, and I was just like, mine.
Yeah, and that's another one where like the aesthetic of how they set that book up with the way the monsters are kind of almost like, I don't know, what would you call it? Almost like a field guide kind of thing.
Yeah, it's. Let me open this up and Well, this is a temple ruin. This is a temple ruin, right? Going this way, but just that isometric look to it and everything, and yeah, I mean, it's such a fun book.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I know we did just go to break and everything, and I know we were both getting kind of tired, and it is getting late. I've got this weird thing blocking half of what Jonathan is saying. It says, it looks like it says, I just got the Monster Overhaul.
And it's fantastic.
Yeah, I love that book. But, Lou, we should probably wrap it up, my friend.
If you're ready, I know that you've put in longer hours the last couple nights than I have, so.
I mean, I could go until 3 in the morning again, but I probably shouldn't. And because I've got a function tomorrow, and I've got to get off my butt and promote it before I go to bed. I'm talking with Martin Willett again tomorrow night. We're just going to hang out and talk about some zines that we've been checking out and everything. And
what time are you rolling at 8 on that one?
8 o'clock, yeah.
8 o'clock.
So if you want to tune in, we'll be there. And Jonathan, if you've got time and would like to tune in, I'd love to have you. So. Oh, all right, my friend. I think I'm going to get to promoting and then hit the hay.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Do you talk about your game store on your program that you're getting ready for?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
What's up?
Do you want to? If not, I'll just back this
I would love
out.
to. No, absolutely.
Because all of us, every gamer at some point in their life's like, oh, I'd love to run a game store, So you're on the fast track to get one going. Do you already have a name picked out and everything?
Well, I'm going with Games with Dave.
Nice.
Like
build that brand.
Yeah, that's really what I'm looking to do. Like my buddy Trevor, or Tefsley Art, who I'm sure you've seen watching some of the episodes and in the chat, made that logo for me. I had gotten this generic looking one from basically someone that even Fiverr, I guess, wouldn't let on. I'm not going to name names. But the guy that I got it from made it was very generic looking, my original logo. You might be able to see it in old videos. And my buddy saw it and he's like, dude, let me make you a logo. And I'm like, okay. And he made the logo that I'm using now.
And so you get on your tee, right?
Yes, sir.
I love that color tee, by the way.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And I got a few of these ordered to wear down at Total Con, so that if anyone might be, hey, you're the interview guy, and I'll be like, yeah, you want to talk? So I got business cards made up and all that for it. And But yeah, the store, jeez, this is where my exhaustion is starting to kick in. What exactly had you asked me if I was?
Just like so everybody's had that dream, right?
Yep.
But then to take the steps forward and be like, okay, no, I'm gonna do this, and this is how I'm gonna do it. I mean, we were talking in I mean, you've been 6 months in prep so far, to this point.
Yeah.
Probably more than that. Um, so what? I mean, like, I guess what at what point are you like, nope, I'm set and ready to launch? Like what's because you're saying you're trying to move up that date.
Yeah,
What
it's
is it
gonna
that
be a
makes you
gut
like
feeling more
feel
than
like you're ready to jump from the
anything.
plane?
It's gonna be the feeling in my gut. I've got a couple locations that I want to go look at. Because initially, my fiance and I, who she is an equal part of this as much as I am with what we've put into this so far. We had talked about doing a year of waiting because all I've started out doing is selling magic cards through this site called TCG Player. And I was expecting it to be like selling 3 or 4 cards a week tops. See if we made an extra 50, $100, whatever. And it's gone way beyond that, way faster than I was expecting. Oh, you can't see it because of the screen.
The screen.
You can kind of almost see part of it right here in this crack. But our newest piece of living room furniture is a 5-foot tall boltless shelf that I have full of boxes of magic cards, both from my collection throughout the years that I hadn't sold off and stuff that we've bought over the last few months. It is terrifying. But what we were just talking about on break was the catalyst for me being like, nope, I'm moving this up. Because, yeah, I was like, no, I'm not messing around anymore. I think I kind of look at it as a blessing in disguise how that happened. And for those wondering, I'll spill it out there. I'm not going to name names or anything just because I had applied with a distributor. They were like, no, you're an online only store. Away with you. And I'm like, well, fine. I won't be an online only store. And then I'm going to find your competitor and I'm going to give them my money. So, yeah. And again, like you saying that I don't show that I'm nervous and everything, like whenever I think about the store, like my stomach just goes into knots, and it is the most horrifying but gratifying thing. And excuse me, I think that's the best thing that could happen to me, is to have that fear. There have been so many things that I've tried, like in attempts to become an entrepreneur, that I've been like, oh, I've got this, no problem. And 2 months later, wham, I'm the bug on the windshield. And the fear is causing me not to hesitate, but to strategize, which I've never really done with anything before. I've literally just been so dang cocky that I would be like, yeah, this is going to work. In 6 months, I'll be a millionaire. Watch. And it's yet to happen. And I don't plan on that being the case with the store either. I'm not in it to get rich. I want to create a hub so that, say, someone's having a bad day, they can come and hang out at Games with Dave, play a hand of Magic, or play a round of Magic, play some DCC, or play whatever, and get in a better mood before they go home. And yeah, I want to create Games with Dave home for wayward souls, basically. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. Like, I want that community, of like, I just want a place where people feel welcome and safe and fun and look upon fondly 40 years from now, you know? So, yeah.
That's awesome.
And I hope it works. If not, then I'll never give up. I'm too stubborn. I'm like one of those punching bags we had as a kid that you'd punch and it had the rounded bottom and it would pop back up. Like, the universe has got to be so sick and tired of trying to punch me down and keep me down. It's got to be like, I think at this point, it's got to be like, dude, I give up. You get your game store. And it's like, but yeah, it's going to work. It's got to work.
Well, that's exciting. I hope I didn't, make you.
Oh, no.
Reveal it sooner than you wanted to.
I am actually a horrible self-promoter, so thank you, actually. There's everybody that's always like, well, be sure to like and subscribe. I don't do that. It just doesn't feel natural to me. So I don't do it. Well, all right, folks, we're going to wrap it up and call it a night. Jonathan, thanks so much for hanging out with us all night. And anyone else that tuned in that didn't want to chime in the chat, thanks for joining us. And for anyone else watching in the future, I hope you enjoyed the interview. Thank you very much, folks, and have a good night.
Thanks.